It is, of course, Armistice Day. We've been finding out what's been going on across the country to commemorate today.
Yeah, well, we're joined in the studio by an Army veteran, Robert Clarke, and it's lovely to meet you. Thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
What does today mean to you?
I mean, today's really a sense of sort of quiet contemplation, reflection on people who are no longer here, who have served and given their lives for this country, both men and women in all conflicts. For me particularly, it's the 633 men and women who died in Iraq and Afghanistan, sort of my generation's conflicts, but obviously as well from World War I all the way through. But it's really sort of quiet contemplation, reflection, and obviously remembrance.
You see, it is interesting because obviously, I mean, with this being Armistice Day, of course, there's focus on World War I, and we often, I mean, in my youth, it was all about World War II. Whereas now, of course, there are many people, like your good selves, who've been in the theatre of war and have lost mates and all the rest of it. And it does bring it much closer to home, actually.
No, absolutely. There's friends of mine who have left the army and other services who aren't dealing with it as well as others may be. And it's, relatively speaking, I'm perfectly fine. I had very good experiences, the best times of my life. But I know people who I work with still today who are terribly affected day to day in sort of, in line of their service. And again, it's people like that who I remember and I think about. And
Yes, it's not just those who died.
no, exactly. It's the people who came back with life-altering injuries, mental health as well. Obviously, it's November, it's Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
And it coincides quite appropriately with remembrance, I think.
Do you think we pay enough attention? Because we're talking a lot about conflict at the moment with what's going on in Ukraine. Thankfully, we're not boots on the ground yet, as far as all that goes. But do you think, unless you've been in that situation, you can't, the rest of us can't understand some of the things you see and do, can we?
It's incredibly difficult to sort of put it into perspectives where civilians or people who haven't been in those situations themselves can understand. I remember one of my first... So I used to work at the Henry Jackson Society pretty much straight when I left the army, and I was talking to a colleague there about a particular experience, and I looked up all of a sudden and her face was just like blood had drained from it, and I hadn't really realised just how much detail I was possibly speaking in. And it's incredibly difficult to recount to people, and also it's also quite unnecessary. You don't need to go into those details, and quite often they're incredibly personal. But that's why the armed forces community are very close, and sometimes the best ways of dealing with the effects day to day is speaking to people within the community, and there's not enough of that. So I try and I still have close links with people I served with. There's a good community of us in Nottingham, for example, where I'm from. We see each other, we talk about people who are no longer here, we talk about our own experiences and reflect. So it's not just on Remembrance Day, but pretty much all year round.
No, you live it all year round.
Yes.
But it's important that we do show some solidarity with you on these days, Armistice Day and then Remembrance Sunday.
It's important for us, I think, as a community, as a veteran community, and people still serving, that the country, and they do, and we're incredibly grateful, I think, for the services, the parades, the role of the royal family, for example. This is obviously the first year King Charles is going to be heading the services on Sunday, and I think a lot of the armed forces community and the veterans are welcoming, as well as reflective of the passing of Her late Majesty the Queen, the role that she had with the armed forces. But the role with the royal family and wider society is important.
Yeah, no, absolutely.